Hey, welcome to Head Trauma. I'm Lee. This is
Fayaz.
And we're here today to do a review over the Vice TV dark side of professional wrestling. We're going to be talking about the Chris Benoit death. It's a two-part documentary that they have out right now. So we watched the first part. We're going to talk a little bit about it, talk about how we felt about it. Let us know in the comments below what you think, how you feel about it. If you haven't watched it yet, we'll also have the link down below. If you don't want to listen to us talk, you can always watch. Go ahead and click the link down below, and you can watch it as well. For us, it was kind of hard to watch parts of it because we are wrestling fans.
We are serious wrestling fans. Now, everybody goes, well, wrestling's not real. I've just been a fan since I was a kid, and I love it, and I followed these guys, man. I watched them growing up, and it was kind of hard. It was only part 1 of 2, so there's going to be a second part to this deal on the Vice, okay? But, and I'm looking forward to that part 2, and we all know what happened in this particular deal, but we get a little insight to it, and we get to hear from some people that were close to him. This one was about Chris Benoit. Had also a lot to do with Eddie Guerrero and their relationship and how they all came up, and Dean Malenko's in it and Chris Jericho's in it. It's a really good documentary.
Yeah, and the whole thing about it is that these guys were not huge guys as wrestlers, but they were better performers than most people. Right away, I was a fan the first time I saw Chris Benoit as the Pegasus Kid when he was doing things. Just hearing stuff about him as he was coming up in different places before he ever showed up in WCW, where him and Eddie and Dean Malenko all showed up at the same time. Now, Eddie and Ben and Chris Benoit met way back in New Japan. All right, when Eddie was a masked wrestler there.
Yep.
And again, they weren't big guys, but the stuff they were doing was so high quality that other people were trying to get videos of it to see if they could step up to the matches that Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero had.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. And, people, when they watch wrestling, they always look at the big guys, man, the big guys. And, it really focused a lot on that, how they had to, they went from WCW to WWF just because of that, that reason. They kept getting bumped down. They're not the big guys. They're not. But the things they were doing, man, the high flying, jumping out of the ring, the flip. I mean, just the acrobatics, the technique was involved. I mean, to me, even nowadays, sometimes it's a lot more funner to watch some of the smaller guys wrestle, man, because of the stuff they can do.
Well, I believe that both of those guys and Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio as well had a lot to do with, and Chris Jericho had a lot to do with helping the smaller guys get over, and especially now. I think because there's a lot more smaller guys doing wrestling now than there was before. It's always about the big guys. And I still like to see some big guys do some stuff too.
Absolutely.
But the smaller guys make a lot of guys who are just normal or like us who think, wow, maybe we could do that, even though we would never do that. but the simple fact is it gave those guys encouragement.
Although he's hit me with a chair quite a few times in our lifetime. So,
but Jericho also talked about the fact that Chris Benoit was one of the reasons why he wanted to become a wrestler, because they're both from Canada. He watched him in Stampede Wrestling, which was from Canada.
Yep.
And they both grew up in the same area, doing the same stuff. So Chris Benoit was one of those people that really got him into wanting to be a wrestler. All right. Now, we do know that there's some dark things, and we'll get into that as it goes. We just want to talk a little bit about how we personally felt. Like, I believe that, you can say what you want, and you can say, oh, he's destroyed, his legacy or what. Yeah, and maybe in that form of what he did. But Chris Benoit was one of the best technical wrestlers, bar none, in wrestling, period.
Yeah. And, we still, I catch a lot of flack. How do you watch pro wrestling, man? Being a martial arts. I get into the technique of it, the whole work of it, the whole movement, everything that they do. Yeah. Just the physicality of it, to me, it's pretty amazing in itself. Okay, and when you're watching things like that, what those guys are really going through, you go, well, it's not real. Well, it's fake. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. They're almost like it's almost like watching stuntmen go perform over and over every day,
and if they
all the time,
and if they make a mistake, just like a stuntman, it can cost them
hurts.
sometimes their lives. And sometimes injuries that put them out for a while, or injuries that put them out permanently.
Yeah, definitely. So that's why I respect it. It's not just oh, it's fake fighting. It's not really what it's about for me, man. I really get into the whole. I get into the whole technique of it, man. All the way to like New Japan. If you watch some of their stuff, man, that is super, super technical. They almost take, jiu-jitsu and catch wrestling and apply it to a lot of their matches, man. And you could watch some of that stuff and go, man, some of these guys probably really could fight if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
So it's very cool to me to watch that transition, how that all comes together.
Yeah. Now, also in this documentary, they also had a talk with Benoit's son, David Benoit. Yeah. Who looks a lot like his father.
Looks just like him.
And
he should, right?
Yeah. Maybe. But, that's the first person that we see when they sit down to interview him.
Yeah.
And for that kid, it's got to be really hard and really surreal that the person that you idolize and you love, your father, did these things when we haven't got there yet. We'll get down that road a little bit later.
Yeah.
But he's talking about how his father was his hero. And how he, when his dad first got into the business, his dad would take him to wrestling and he would see the Dynamite Kid. Well, and if you don't know who the Dynamite Kid is and you're not a wrestling fan, you can also look up that stuff. Anything that deals with Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith. They were the British Bulldogs, but the Dynamite Kid did a lot of stuff on his own. He wasn't really a big guy.
Yeah.
I mean, later he kind of became a big guy because he did a lot of steroids, and that pretty much destroyed his body later in life.
The juice.
Yeah. So, but those were guys that he looked up to, and that's what he wanted to do. And he wanted to make things where it was going. Now, we can also see in some of the psyche a little bit about Chris Benoit is he wanted to be perfect when he wrestled. He wanted his matches to be so perfect that he would even punish himself if the match didn't go right.
That's right. There was a point in the documentary where I guess him and Jericho were having a match, and Benoit missed. He missed a kick. He missed a reaction to a kick, and later on, Jericho said he walked back into the locker room, and Chris Benoit is doing squats. He's doing squats, and he goes, what are you doing? He goes, well, basically it boiled down to Chris Benoit was punishing himself for missing it and for missing that part of the match. For missing that part, and that's how much. And Jericho was like, "Well, man, was there a coach somewhere? Well, why are you doing this?" And he goes, "I'm just doing it to myself." And he gave himself as a punishment 500 squats. That speaks to, even if this is what that speaks to, a personality like that, right? I mean, even if he wasn't a professional wrestler. Just think of, other things he would have succeeded at just because he thought that way well enough to punish himself for, doing something like that.
Yeah, but at the same time, some of that is we all make mistakes. And in the middle of something, if something doesn't go right, you can't punish yourself for that moment. And I get pushing yourself to a level, but part of that probably has led to what exactly happened is that he always felt like it had to be somewhat better.
Sure. It had to be somewhat better. But, I mean, I also think there was that. Probably was something dark going on there, too. Yeah, he probably had that perfection thing that was going on in his head. So maybe, it goes over his relationship with Eddie Guerrero and how they were just, really good friends. And after Eddie Guerrero passed away, it showed how he just kind of took a turn for the worse. And that might have had something to do with it, but from what we're finding out now, as far as with all the CTE stuff and stuff coming, it could be that. We haven't gotten to part 2 of the series yet, though. So.
But also, and a lot of us who have been wrestling fans, we've been checking out stuff about it and there's all types of conspiracies all over the internet. There's just tons of garbage out there. This is coming more from people who are actually a part of this world and that stuff, not just people on the outside that were here. So these people were actually closest to them.
Yep.
All right.
They were there. They were always, these people that they're, they were always around, always together, hung out all the time, even after the shows and things like that.
So, I get that it could tear somebody down having a real close friend, because I've been in that situation where I lost somebody close to me, and it took me a good year and a half to get myself back to being me again. I just wasn't that same person, because we were not only just friends, we were business partners, and it was a really hard time. So I get where he got, where him and Eddie, they traveled, they worked out together, they ate together, they were like brothers. He got a chance to talk. When you lose somebody that's that close, even a family member, and they're super, super close, it tears you up for a long time, and it's hard to get over those things. And, when that guy's like your brother, and you guys do everything together.
Everything.
Because you're always on the road. They were on the road 200 or more days a year, and they were together all the time, eating, going to dinner, talking about their families. If they weren't there, they'd call each other and talk about how things are going, and their families did stuff together. So they were more than just friends. They were family. So when Eddie Guerrero died in his hotel room, and again, all these people he did not die of drugs. He had a drug and alcohol past. And they talk about this in the documentary. They
did. And then I guess they chalked it up to heart disease.
Heart disease.
Yeah.
And and a lot of that probably was over the alcohol and drugs from the past, could have effects on that as well.
Sure.
But it also runs in families, and some people just have it no matter what shape they're in. All right. That has, you can eat heart healthy all you want, but if you got heart disease, you have heart disease. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
All right. So
it was probably undiagnosed. He probably didn't know. He's working, he's having a good time, and he's traveling, he's on the road, he's wrestling all the time. They're just living life, they're having a good time. He's 38, he's in good shape, he's not thinking about things like that. So it could happen to any one of us.
Yeah. So Eddie dies, Chris breaks down, and he is a mess. For a year or more, actually. So what his wife and her sister did is they got him a journal so he could talk to Eddie. So he'd write down what he was thinking, write stuff that was going on. And he started to come out of his doldrum somewhat.
Yeah.
And definitely. then out of nowhere, it was just like something happened. Now, what happened is where we are at this point. We're not going to go into everything. If you don't know about it, you can find out more about it. We know the story, but we're going to leave that second part to the next review of the second part of this. But he was leaving weird text messages for different wrestlers, Chavo, different ones, saying, hey, my dogs are in the back house. They're the door's unlocked. You can, come in. And then sent a text message from his wife's phone saying the same thing. A few different text messages about, don't worry about things. It was just kind of some odd stuff that wasn't matching up. Well, he didn't show up for a couple of wrestling events.
Right.
And so the WWE, what they did, well, at the time, I think, they were the WWE. They had sent out a wellness check, which anybody knows, if you can't find family or whatnot, or people, if you're looking for them, you can call the cops and say, hey, we need to have a wellness check.
Which is pretty cool, because I didn't even know that the WWE did things like that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. They actually send somebody out to do a wellness check if one of their wrestlers comes up missing for a couple of days, because they want to go check on him to make sure that,
everything's okay, or something happened.
Right.
Now you got to remember, this was in the early 2000s, because during the late 90s and early 2000s, there was a lot of wrestlers dying from all types of stuff. They were really losing it at a massive pace. But it became a heyday. A lot of stuff was going on. So they sent and they found Chris Benoit dead, his wife Nancy, and their son Daniel. All right. Now, We haven't got into the second part. We know what happened. Everybody should. If you're a true wrestling fan and know anything about it, or was a Chris Benoit fan, or a fan, a lot of people are going to take offense and say, how can you say you're a fan? I was a fan of his wrestling and what he did.
Right.
Not the fan of the act that happened later. Nobody is a fan of anything like that.
Right.
If you think that we're trying to we're not sugarcoating what happened. We're just reviewing this. Now, this documentary was strong. It was a lot of times when, it was a tearjerker, to tell you the honest truth. If you don't have a heart, you probably won't start to well up, but I did. Not from just being a fan.
It was hard to watch.
But to hearing from family and people that were close to them and people that were there when all this went down.
People who had spent time with their kids and things like that.
They were close. And there's a lot going on with this segment. Now, I think that Vice did a really good job on this Dark Side of the Ring stuff. They have other ones on Vice as well. You can find out about the death of King Kong Bruiser Brody. You can find out about the Fabulous Moolah and stuff that went on there. The Montreal Screwjob.
Yep.
Which, if you're a wrestling fan, these are things that you kind of like. If you're into that stuff, great. If you're not, it's okay. Leave us a comment anyway. But to us, this right here really gave us kind of a more of an understanding of what was going on, a little bit of mentally wise. Yep. Now, we still don't know everything because nobody knows what happened in that house. Nobody knows for sure exactly what led up to this happening. Maybe the next one will give us a little hint more.
Yeah, we still got part 2 coming up for that one. And we're definitely going to speak on this some more whenever part 2 comes around. Yeah. So I can't wait to see it.
So this, but until then, I hope you enjoyed our commentary over what we thought about this. Dark Side of Wrestling, the Chris Benoit. It really hit, pretty hard for some of us that were wrestling fans during that time to think about this. And for the longest time, that was the talk forever. It's still one of the talks when it comes up.
Yeah.
Even though he's literally been written off a lot of stuff. People have taken his name out of things. They've taken his stuff down. I think that's kind of terrible because he did have a lot to offer wrestling-wise. Now, I get what happened is bad, but at the same time, just to erase something doesn't change anything about what happened.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and now we're finding out so many more things about mental health and things like that. And I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying it's okay what happened, because all you guys out there that are fans know what happens next, right? But you still you have to consider that. You have to consider what these guys go through. They're starting to find that out, in NFL players and, fighters, boxers, the whole thing. Anything that has something to do with
head trauma.
With head trauma.
It's kind of what we talk about, because that's our thing, is we've both had head trauma, concussions. I've had a couple of fractured skulls.
It's no fun.
It's not fun. It's not something. This is us making fun of each other. And the joke is about us. It has nothing to do with head trauma. We don't push head trauma. We don't think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
We know what happens when you've been in that state. Trust me, it's not fun, and we get it. And we get that some people get it worse than others. But at the same time,
and again, we're not condoning what he did, but if you're a fan, you got to be a fan of what he was.
Yes,
exactly. Before it led to that point. And hopefully we'll find out more about what took him to that point in his life.
All right. Until then, guys, we are Head Trauma. I'm Lee. This is Fayaz. If you like what we had to talk about, great. Put a comment down below. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button for when we have any new videos coming up, and we'll have more and more stuff out. If you haven't checked out any of our other stuff, please do. There's a lot of fun stuff going on our channel, and hopefully help us build it, especially during this time when we don't have anything to do during this coronavirus stuff going on. We're around each other so much that I don't have it, so I've already been through that part. He doesn't, so we've been keeping in track. We just want you to have a good time. I hope this helps you out. I hope you're having a good time with what we're doing. And until then, have a great day.
Later.